Hiya, neighbor. Let's go grab a Gansett, eh? Okay. Sorry, that was a bad accent. But I am going to go off script a little bit here today doing my local beer reviews. I'm going to review a beer that I had a number of years ago. I saw it in a local beer store and I said, you know what? I'm just going to try this beer again, just see what I think and give it another go, give it another review. So, come on along. Let's grab a Gansett and have a party. Okay, folks. Sorry about that. That's a very poor impression of a Rhode Island accent. The only coastal accent I know is going to be from Harker's Island, North Carolina. Or as we say down there, a Harker's Island brogue or Outer Banks brogue. And I've known a lot of those people down there, so I'm kind of familiar with how they sound. But I did find this beer in a local beer store a couple of weeks ago, and I figured, you know what? I had this. I brought it to a local gathering years ago and tried it, and it was just beer. Okay. And so I saw it and I was like, you know, let me try it again to see if it had changed, see if my impressions have changed. Sometimes it's good to go and review a beer that you thought was kind of middle of the road because you never know. You may find something unique in it. But we are going to try that today. We're going to see what we taste. It is considered a very classic beer up in Rhode Island. It's very, very local, very, very regional. It's one of the older breweries in America. I'm going to say conservatively it's in the top 10 or top 15 in terms of its age. So it being an old beer, a historically old beer, I did want to try it again. I will say that they call it an oyster beer, or at least that's what I thought the can read years ago. Meaning that you're going to either drink it at an oyster roast or you're going to probably put it in the water before you steam the oysters. I do know that the church that I attend during the spring, we have an oyster roast. And a lot of the folks that go in, they cook the oysters. They'll take about a case of Yingling and put it in the bottom of the roasters. Apparently, it makes oysters taste good. And the only thing I could think of is, how can you make snot taste good? Anyhow. Well, we are going to review this beer, but before we do, here's some important information.
Beer through history.
So I did want to list out a list of the, 9 oldest beers in America. That is the oldest breweries. At number 9, we have Genesee. And I've had Genesee before, and if you have never had a Genesee, I definitely suggest you try that. It is just a plain beer, but I will tell you, it has a lot of characteristic to it. Started in 1878 in New York for the Genesee Brewing Company. Coming in at number 8, naturally, it's going to be the Budweiser. 1876 in Missouri. I believe that's St. Louis, Missouri. I could be wrong. Currently, they're owned by Anheuser-Busch InBev. Okay. Coming in at number 7 is the Coors Banquet Beer. That started in 1873 in, I want to say Golden, Colorado. I could be wrong about that. Currently, they are owned by Molson Coors Brewing Company. That's the conglomerate that owns them. Next, coming in at number 6, Leinenkugels. Oh, yeah. You've got to have a Leinenkugel. If you can get it, get it. If you can't, well, sorry for you, but it is really good. Leinenkugels, I like that. Definitely recommend Leinenkugels Original. Started in 1867 in Wisconsin. They, too, are owned by the Molson Coors Brewing Company. Coming in at number 5 is Hamm's. Now, Hamm's I've heard a lot about, and I haven't been able to find Hamm's, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. 1865 in Minnesota. And they are currently owned, again, by the Molson Coors Brewing Company. Coming in at number 4, and I have to say, I can't drink this. It's Stroh's, 1850. Okay, and they're owned by, they were started in Michigan, owned by the Pabst Brewing Company. Now, a little backstory on that one. The first time I ever really got drunk is off of Stroh's, and to this day, I can't even smell it. Because it is just, it'll turn my stomach. Coming in at number 3, Schlitz Beer. Started in 1849 in Wisconsin by the Pabst Brewing Company. Number 2, oddly enough, Old Milwaukee. 1849. Started in Wisconsin, and they're currently owned by the Pabst Brewing Company. I used to drink Old Milwaukee. We called it something else, but that's a different story. And coming in at number 1 is my favorite, and that's the Yuengling Lager. Started in 1829 in Pennsylvania, Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Now, I've had the Pottsville, Pennsylvania version of Yuengling, but here where I live, we get it from Tampa. Okay, kind of sad, but it's still a very good beer. They're owned by the D.G. Yuengling and Sons. If I'm not mistaken, it's one of the only ones in this list, perhaps other than Genesee, that's not owned by a conglomerate like Anheuser-Busch or Molson or Miller Coors, Molson Coors, or Pabst Brewing Company. They're family owned. Anyhow, that's it. The top 9. Now, I believe Narragansett is going to be in that list somewhere, whether it's in the top 10 or perhaps in the top 15. But they're going to be starting out at about 1890. Okay, in Narragansett, Rhode Island. But you're going to be hearing about that coming up shortly in the beer specs. Alrighty, so let's get cracking on our review, right? So again, we're looking at the Narragansett Lager from Narragansett, Rhode Island. Go ahead and crack this one now. We're going to be judging this on the 5 categories: the aroma, the appearance, the flavor, the mouthfeel, and of course, the overall impression. Again, I have reserved expectations for this beer. It is a fairly cheap one. I would say I would put it in the category of Yuengling. Okay, so it's not really a regional, but it's a relatively inexpensive beer. Let's go try this. It's a lager. Love that. Okay, Narragansett. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be pouring it in just a standard tumbler. This is nothing special, just a real cheap tumbler. You can drink it in anything. You can drink it out of the can, for that matter. Already I can tell it's a little light. Now I'm going to pour it sideways and then up, because really it is going to effervesce quite a bit. Okay. Be gentle with it, because I don't want it to overflow with the foam with the head. Okay, I'm going to tilt it. I'm going to get it a little bit more glass proud. I didn't effervesce like I expected, but that's okay. Alrighty. Already I can tell a few things are interesting going on with this beer. Okay. Let's try the aroma first. It's very light. There's not much to it. There's not much body to it. I didn't expect a lot. Okay, this is going to be a very light lager. It'd be something like you would have if you went out for pizza one night and you just says, I'll order a beer, and they bring this to you and you set it on the table and you eat your pizza or your seafood. You eat your fish or your shrimp or your oysters. And this would really fit the bill. It's just a simple wash, the food down the throat type of beer. But no, not much to it. I mean, maybe a little malty, but it is a lager. You're not going to be hit with a lot of those really strong flavors as you would with an ale. Let's take a look at the appearance. Now, I know you can't see it that well against my black shirt here, but I'm going to say it's very light. I'm going to say it's in the SRM, or the standard reference model, of about a 2, maybe. Okay, so it's really, really light. It's not as light as a cream ale would be or something like that. Let's say it was about as light as Budweiser. Definitely not as light as Natural Light or some other beers that we're not going to mention here today. So take that for that. The head didn't stay very long. That's fine. Again, I expected it to be a lot more effervescent, a lot more head to it, and it didn't. Okay. A lot of good bubbles coming up. So It is going to be carbonated, and yes, it is very cold. I put it in the bottom shelf of the refrigerator, and it stayed there. I'm going to say roughly about 50 degrees, 50, 55 degrees. You can serve this in a frosted mug if you like. I don't particularly drink things in frosted mugs, just for the fact that the ice will collect and it'll actually flavor the beer in an off way. Okay, let's try the flavor. Here, I mean, it really is. That's all it is. It's just beer. Not a lot of hops. A lot of just base malt. Now, a little bit of brewing knowledge here. Whenever you brew a beer, you're going to brew a beer with what they call a base malt. And that's what is going to make most of the grain bill for your beer. It's not going to be very heavy. It's not going to be very flavored. It's not going to have a lot of characteristics to it other than providing the fermentation process with enough sugar to be able to create alcohol. And that's what I'm tasting here. I'm tasting a lot of the base malt. Again, it's just beer. Pizza beer, seafood beer, beer you would drink going out to eat. It's not Budweiser, so it doesn't have that characteristic. There's no really unique flavors to it. Sometimes I'll drink a beer and I'll say, oh, wow, that tastes like white grape juice. I do know that Rolling Rock has that characteristic for me, is a white grape juice flavor to it. Okay? This is just beer. I mean, pretty much it. You're hot, during the summer, you're out on the boat somewhere, you grab a Narragansett and you put it down and you feel a whole lot better. You feel a whole lot cooler. It's not going to give you a lot of good energy. Okay. Let me see if I can find the specs on the alcohol by volume, which should be on the label, but I don't see it. So I'm going to say it's roughly about, I don't know, maybe about a 3.5 to 4, maybe. The beer specs will have that coming up shortly. So anyhow, beer, pretty much it. Mouthfeel, it's going to be very dry. You're not going to have a lot of sweet body to it. It's going to have carbonation, and the carbonation stays in the beer. It apparently doesn't come out of the beer to create any foam or any head. I'm not seeing any Brussels lace around the edge. Remember, the Brussels lace is the head that sticks around the edge of the glass that creates this lacy looking type of residue. Yeah, just plain beer. But it's not very sweet. It is going to be a lager. Lagers aren't supposed to be sweet. They aren't supposed to be incredibly dry, but they can be. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of middle of the road. So my expectations weren't off. Now, the overall impression, like I said, and I can't say it enough, it is just a middle of the road. Pull it out of the cooler, pull it out of the refrigerator, sit down, just drink something. Mainly, you're just going to be drinking it for the liquid. You're not really going to be drinking it for the experience, or you're really not going to be drinking it for the alcohol. You're not going to get drunk off of these. I can guarantee you that. At least I'm not. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? I would probably rate this at about a 2 or maybe 2.5 hops at best. I would even go as low as 1.5 to 2 hops. But, as it is, if I'm at a party, I wouldn't turn it down. I would say, let me have that over some of the other larger commercial beers that are out there. So, yeah. Anyhow, that's my impression. Now, on to the beer specs.
Lagers versus ales. Lager and ale are two of the most popular types of beer in the world, and each offers a distinct drinking experience. The main difference between the two lies in the brewing process, hops, and the type of yeast used. Lager is a type of beer that undergoes a bottom fermentation process. It is brewed at cooler temperatures, typically between 44 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit, 7 degrees to 13 degrees Celsius. This low-temperature fermentation results in a cleaner, crispier taste with a milder aroma. Lagers are known for their refreshing quality and smoothness, making them ideal choices for those seeking a lighter and more approachable beer. Some popular lager styles include Pilsner, Helles, and Bock. On the other hand, ale is brewed using top fermenting yeast and is fermented at higher temperatures, ranging from 60 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 to 22 degrees Celsius. The warmer fermentation process imparts a broader range of flavors and aromas, making ales more complex and diverse in taste. They can be fruity, spicy, bitter, or even sweet, appealing to a broader range of palates. Ale styles include Pale Ale, IPA, India Pale Ale, Stout, and Porter. In terms of serving temperature, lagers are generally best enjoyed colder, while ales are served at slightly warmer temperatures to allow their flavors to fully develop. Meanwhile, ale is preferred by those seeking bold, robust flavors, making it a popular choice during colder months and when paired with heartier meals. Whether you're in the mood for a refreshing and easy-drinking lager or a more complex and flavorful ale, both styles offer an enjoyable and satisfying beer drinking experience for enthusiasts and novices alike. Narragansett Lager, a beloved American beer, holds a rich history dating back to 1890. Brewed in Rhode Island, it embodies a classic taste that has stood the test of time. This iconic lager boasts a golden hue, crisp flavor, and a refreshing finish, making it a favorite among beer enthusiasts. Its enduring legacy and commitment to quality have made Narragansett Lager a staple at gatherings and a symbol of regional pride. Whether by the beach or at a barbecue, it continues to be cherished by beer connoisseurs nationwide. This lager style is versatile. It can accompany barbecue, Chinese, Indian, Italian, Latin American, and Mediterranean dishes. The alcohol by volume is 5.0%, with 12 IBU and SRM of 2.
So there you have it, folks. That's our review of Narragansett Lager, one of America's oldest beers still in existence. I will say this. It is the same impression that I had years ago. It's just beer. It'd be a fantastic beer for, let's say, eating a pizza, eating with just simple, small foods, nothing really heavy. A day of working in the yard, maybe mowing the lawn, coming back in, maybe doing some housework. If you just want to relax a little bit and get, well, as rehydrated as you can, definitely say Narragansett. It's not something I'm going to put on my big, recommendation list, but if you just want something cheap that'll fit the bill, definitely go for this one. Now, I want to say thank you for joining me today. I really enjoyed bringing this to you. I do want to also mention, make sure that you download and use the Beer Judge Certification Beer Score Sheet. It is going to have a lot of fantastic information. It goes with the 5 categories that we mentioned: the aroma, the appearance, the flavor, the mouthfeel, and the overall impression. It'll allow you to judge your beer, and it gives you a list of all flavors on the side. So it's going to help you whenever you review your beers on your own. Also want to mention, right down in the description below, you're going to have a link to the beer review logbook. Now, I've been filling this out quite a bit with all the beers, and it gives you the 5 categories as well as a glossary and a brief description of the types of beer. Try that. Get that. $8.99 off of Amazon. Can't beat it. If you can find it at Total Wine, get your Total Guide to Beer. This is my little Bible for beer. I've had this thing for about 12 years now, and of course, it's really kind of tattered, but overall, it is an amazing little book. See if you can find it at a Total Wine. If not, see if you can reach out to them and say, hey, can you send me one? They may. It was free. They may even be able to find and give you the electronic version. Now, from the upstate, definitely do the Upstate Ale Trail. Now, the Ale Trail means you're going to go to a number of the breweries in the upstate and South Carolina area, and you're going to be able to check off the breweries that you've been to. Now, I definitely want to say again, thank you. Remember, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to know when a new episode comes out, as well, hit the like button. Leave your comments down below. Let us know what you want us to do for the next episode. If there's a beer you want us to review, if there's something else that you want us to talk about, if you enjoyed any of the segments of the show, we want to hear about it. We want to hear from you. Until then, as the Irish say, sláinte. The Germans, Prost. Japanese, kanpai. The Italians, chin chin. And the Spanish, salud. And of course, here in America, cheers. Yep, tastes the same. Peace, love, and beer.